Hello everybody, Basiliskfang here, and welcome to another episode of Manic Flash Mondays. This week I am playing The Moral Machine. For those of you that do not know, I am in college, and I am a philosophy major, so ethics and morals is something that I sort of specialize in. And so I thought it'd be fun to play The Moral Machine and just see if I can apply some of my, we'll call them pre-built, like pre-programmed morals already in my head to some of these scenarios. These scenarios are all self-driving car scenarios, and if you haven't heard of these, they're kind of similar to trolley problems. And if you've never heard of trolley problems, well, you can look that up by yourself, because I'm not going to spend forever explaining it. But basically, it's the moral idea of there might be situations with self-driving cars which are here today. Like, I think Tesla's already got one, and I know all of the car companies over in Detroit are working on it. So they're a thing. It's not something that's going to happen 50 years from now. They are here today. So self-driving cars, they might fail, which means they're going to hit something and somebody might die. And since they're artificially intelligent, they need to be programmed with a certain morals or ethics system. And this is sort of like, how do you decide what morals and ethics they should be programmed with? So MIT has made this little game that I'm going to play. And we're just going to hop right into it, and you'll gather all the, because I don't want to talk about it too much. You'll gather what's going on as I play. So here we have two scenarios. We'll show both descriptions. And this one on the left, the self-driving car with sudden brake failure will continue ahead and crash into the concrete barrier, which will result in the deaths of everybody in the car. However, on the right over here, the car could swerve, avoiding the concrete barrier. Everybody in the car will live, but it'll kill the 3 people in the sidewalk there, the crosswalk. So in this scenario, we've got 3 people dying either way. So I can't just be like, oh, since there's 1 in the car and 5 in the road, I'm gonna kill the 1 in the car. This one's not a simple numbers game, and they do, if you look on the sides here, describe to you who the characters are. So in the car, we've got a female doctor, 1 generic woman, and a male doctor. And in the street, we have a homeless person and 2 generic men. I personally don't necessarily base who should die off of what kind of person they are, if that makes any sense. Like, that would be like one of the last things I'd check. However, in this specific scenario, loss of life is equal, so I can't go with that. But what I can go with is assumed risk. An assumed risk is sort of like anytime you do something, you take on a certain amount of risk. So the people in the car take on the risk that they might crash into a barrier and they might die. That's something that's to be expected of them. Whereas the people in the street take on the assumed risk of being hit by a car and therefore killed. And in these scenarios, there's no like, oh, they're just severely injured or the airbag saved them, blah, 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 blah. No, these are both definitely, they're dead. The thing to note on here, and it even says this, is note that the affected pedestrians are flouting the law by crossing on the red signal. To me, that means they have assumed greater risk than if they were crossing legally during a green signal, which means when it comes down to the people in the car who are assuming normal risk and the people who are crossing the street and assuming extra risk by crossing when they're not supposed to, the people assuming extra risk here, in this case, if you understand what I'm saying, they're doing something they're not supposed to, the risks don't match, therefore the people in the street need to die because the assumed risk is, you know, like, it's to be expected. You're more likely to be hit. So I'm going to go with that one. And that's it. There's no like, oh, you won, you lost. There is no right answers necessarily. It logs your data and moves on to the next one. So here we have sudden brake failure. You can either keep going straight ahead and kill the 4 people in that crosswalk, or you can swerve and kill the 4 people in the other crosswalk. Here, let's see, we've got athletes in the left one, but we have fat people in the right one, essentially is what it's trying to get me to distinguish here. And it probably wants me to say, or like a lot of people might say, oh, the athletes are more valuable to society, so they should stay and the fat people should go. I don't really do that because your occupation or your fitness does not necessarily compare to your what would I call it, your capabilities or your potential. You know, there's lots of athletes that do great things. There's lots of, for lack of a better word, fat people that do great things. So that to me doesn't matter. What would matter here, I guess, since it is still equal death. Let's see, we've still got 2 women and 2 men, right? Yeah, so it's basically equal. gender-wise as well, I would have to go with what are the responsibilities of a car in essentially equal scenarios. And to me, even though I know in these two situations they're both going to result in death no matter what, the car might not necessarily know that in reality, which means that it should at least attempt to avoid an accident instead of just going straight on through. You know, if they're checking the accident scene later, they check the car's computer and find that the car just deliberately kept on going, that would be problematic. But if they're like, oh, at least the car tried to swerve, it lowers the moral responsibility of the car, I guess you could say, or whatever agent is in charge of the car, if we decide that the cars are not ethically responsible and it's the programmers or the manufacturers or the owners or whatever. So in this, I'm going to have to say the self-driving car should swerve because just ethically it should at least attempt to avoid an accident. Let's see. You'll continue straight ahead and kill the pedestrians in the street, 2 of which are elderly. Or it can swerve and kill the people in the car, which is a man and what is it, I'm assuming are his 2 children. Here, age could be a factor because, in my opinion, if it comes down to equalness and age is one of the only differences, then the children deserve to live more than the elderly do. There are plenty of arguments out there for why the elderly should live and the children shouldn't. Wisdom would be one of them. The elderly are much more wise and therefore can contribute more to society right in the moment, but the children could contribute more later on, or the children could end up being criminals and actually take away from society, so you have a certain amount of risk there. But we need to note again that these people are they're flouting the law and crossing during a red signal, and to me, they've assumed extra risk, which means they are more deserving to die, and that's a horrible thing to say, but since I have to kill somebody either way, I guess that's what I'm gonna say. So between the fact that I'd rather the children live and they're flouting the law, the pedestrians gotta die. I'm sorry. This game's gonna make me look like a terrible person, but you know what? That's what philosophy does to a person. Alright, so it could go straight ahead, crash through the barrier, kill everybody in the car, which includes a cat, or it could swerve and kill the one girl. Now here I have a dilemma. Theoretically, we should kill the one and save the many. And that might be what I end up going with anyway. But man, that cat is not helping their scenario. I want that cat dead, because I hate cats. Kittens are fine. I can deal with a kitten. And maybe if I raised my own cat from birth, it would be fine. But I can't stand other people's cats. I really want to kill that cat. I'd really rather not kill the girl, but there's a girl in the car too, so I think we're gonna have to kill the girl. Just purely a numbers game. Kill the 1, save the 5, even if one of the 5 is a cat. So I'm just gonna say save the 4. Sorry, little girl, it has to happen. I don't want to do it, but it has to. Alright, what do we have? More signal flouting. Here, we still have a numbers game because it's 5v4. However, one of the 5 is a dog, and the dog, as much as I love dogs, is not a human. It's worth less than a human, just on principle, knowing the information I know, because I'm sure there are some people out there that are so terrible that a dog would be morally better than they are. But just with the little information I have on these people, the dog does not count. Not counting the dog, we basically have 4 dead in either scenario, and they're flouting the signal, and you can't do that in my book. You've assumed extra risk. You've increased your chances of being hit by a car, which means when it happens, nobody should be surprised, and since they're flouting the signal, they're dead. I'm sorry. If there's any jaywalkers out there watching this video, don't jaywalk, because those cars are just gonna plow right through you. Alright, 2 boys and 2 girls. Well, this is purely a gender question since the ages are the same. Except, as I've already explained, I, in my mind, think the car needs to at least attempt to avoid an accident and swerve, which means it would kill the 2 boys in the car. That's not a gender thing because I have no evidence to believe that the 2 girls are going to be more beneficial than the 2 boys, or that the 2 boys are going to be more beneficial than the 2 girls. It's just, you know, gender doesn't matter in this scenario to me. The genders are equal in this case, knowing the little information I know about these people. So The car's got to at least attempt to avoid an accident, and it's going to kill the 2 boys in the process. So there we go. What do we have? Oh, 2 cats and 2 people. This is a no-brainer. I can look at the descriptions, but I'm sorry, the 2 cats are dead. And even if I liked cats, I would still say the 2 cats are dead, because cat life does not equal human life. So bye-bye, kitty cats. What are we on? 8. 8 of 13? Not doing too bad. Let's see. Well, there's nobody in the car, so we can either kill the people on the left or the people on the right. So 1 girl, 1 large woman, and 1 female athlete, or 1 boy, 1 large man, and 1 male athlete. So it's trying to get me to play a gender game again. But I'm not going to play the gender game, because in this case, they're all equal. So, barring genders as the decision, and barring numbers as the decision, I have to go with the car needs to at least attempt to avoid an accident. So I need the car to swerve. See, now you're starting to learn my thought processes on at least specifically self-driving car questions, but you could probably guess what I would do in, say, a trolley question or something like that, too. We have killing all the 5 people in the car, which are 2 men and 3 elderly men, or killing the people in the street, which is 3 boys and 2 men. All right. Well, gender is a non-issue here. Numbers is a non-issue here. What we do have is age. Which in this case, age to me would be a factor, because we've got 3 elderly men versus 3 boys. And I'm going to take the gamble that the boys are going to grow up to be very moral people. And so the boys got to live. So I'm sorry, all you nice elderly gentlemen in the car, but you are dead. Okay, so here we have another numbers game, except it's not a numbers game because we've got, oh hell, we got pregnant people too. Okay, well, that doesn't matter because I already know who I'm deciding. 2 people, 2 of them are homeless, 2 of them are a man and a pregnant woman, maybe their husband and wife having their first child. Doesn't matter. The main issue here for me is the people flouting the traffic signal here. The man and the woman are obeying the law, and the homeless people are not obeying the law, and they've assumed more risk by crossing when they are not supposed to be crossing. Therefore, they shall die. See? Getting quicker on these because I've already got a set of rules in my head that I need to apply here. Oh boy. This one might be interesting. We have, should we kill the 1 criminal or kill the 2 criminals plus a dog, an elderly woman, and a male doctor? Well, this one, even though there's more criminals involved, is still going to come down to a numbers game because I do not know the potential of those 2 criminals. They might give up their criminal ways and become very nice people, which means it's just a numbers game. He's crossing when he's supposed to, but he's got to die because it's 1 versus 4 since I'm not going to count the dog, but he's dead. Easy peasy. All right, what do we have? We have that 1 man versus 1 athlete, and he is crossing legally. So they're trying to make me think, is the man worth more than an athlete, or is the athlete worth more than a man? But here I'm still thinking the car attempting to avoid an accident is the thing that we want to go for. And in this case, even though you're not avoiding hitting people, you're avoiding hitting and killing some, like yourself, morally, I actually have to think about this one. See, if I was going to go the capitalist route, I would advertise that the car is always going to save you in that scenario, and therefore you would want to buy the car. However, capitalism and morality do not always agree. And more morally, assuming this man is the owner or operator of this car or whatever, you could say that he is the one that needs to die because he has assumed the risk. So let's think of assumed risk here. He's assumed risk by driving or being in the car, not necessarily driving it. Whereas the man in the crosswalk has assumed no risk, or very little risk because he's crossing when he's supposed to. So, going back to my default of risk assessment, I think the guy in the car has to die, and that almost goes against what my intuition was, but when you examine it logically, I gotta go with that. Oh boy, what do we have? We have people and cats. The people are crossing illegally, however, they trump cats. I'm sorry, they trump cats. Even if those were 4 dogs, I love dogs. But the dogs are not people, so, or cats. So I gotta save the people. We're killing the cats. Oh, shit. Okay, let me stretch this out a little bit here. Alright, and now we have my results screen, and we can see that my most saved character was the male doctor, and my most killed character was the elderly man. But those didn't really play much factors. That was just kind of coincidental. A lot of these are probably going to end up being coincidental. Let's see. Saving more lives. To me, more lives matters quite a bit, but not as much as others decided. Let's see. Protecting the passengers. I did tend to protect the passengers more, but again, that was more coincidental, I think. Upholding the law, I did agree quite a bit, but not as much as, I don't know, I guess I didn't get enough of those questions to make a good sample size. They only ask you 13, so there's not a great sample size here, but I did lean towards the upholding the law mattered quite a bit. Avoiding intervention, what is that? Avoiding intervention does not matter. So I swerved a lot, is basically what it was saying. Oh, so I didn't avoid it. I always tried to intervene. I felt the car should, in most scenarios, should try to intervene, and that to me mattered, especially if it was like nobody in the car. It was just a question of killing 2 people in the street, you know what I'm saying? And I decided it should always try to avoid the one it's about to hit. Gender preference. I have a gender preference towards females, but then again, I feel like they ask me a lot of questions about females, so that's probably skewed. Species preference, always went with the humans. Always went with the humans. Age preference. I tended to favor the elderly. Huh. I think that was mostly coincidental. I highly favored fit people, which is strange to me because I didn't care about that stuff. But again, a lot of this is coincidental. And social value preference versus higher and lower. I was smack dab in the middle because I do not have enough information on these people to know their potentials and therefore judge them on their social values. Whatever. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Comment below if you do something different or if you have a different moral value system. I always enjoy the input, even though I doubt you're going to make me change my own moral value system here. Make sure you click that subscribe button down below. You'll get more videos like this throughout the week. You'll see next week's Manic Flash Mondays. You'll get notifications on it, all that good stuff. Make sure you check out the Facebook and the Twitter. You can find links for those in the description below. And make sure you click on annotations at the end of this video to see other videos that I've done. And I will see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.